Well, it's all about company tax this week, in part what Labor's been saying, but today as well, with the government declaring they won't be taking this to the Senate again. They'll wait for the by-elections instead. Joining me live is the Assistant Minister to the Treasurer, Michael Sukkar, here in the studio. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Tom.
It's going to be a referendum, apparently, on, well, technically a stronger economy and more jobs. Does that basically mean you'll see what voters think of the competing tax plans?
Well, look, every election will be very focused on the economy and who can manage the economy. In this case, let's be frank, these are Labor-held seats in Longman and Braddon, and the government hasn't won a seat off an opposition for about 100 years. So, you know, Labor are in the box seat, but it'll be the issues that I think will be forefront in people's minds are who can manage the economy, who's going to strengthen jobs growth, who's going to keep their taxes down by giving them personal income tax relief, who's going to reduce business taxes, and of course, who's going to whack a big tax on retirees, which is what Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen are proposing for all of the people who will rely on franking credits in their retirement. So, look, no doubt there's a suite of issues that people will look at. They'll also look at the leaders. And Bill Shorten's leadership's been very, very badly tested this week with his captain's call, a breakout on his backbenchers who don't support his captain's call. I think that'll be in the forefront in people's minds as well.
So if it's a referendum, what's the win?
Well, it's not a referendum. It's a by-election.
Well, let me just
hold on, Tom. But well, no, you keep using this word. It's a by-election.
Matthias Cormann used it.
It's a by-election two by-elections in two Labor-held seats.
There's Mayo as well. You can't ignore that, can you?
And it'll be
Liberal seat back.
It'll be like every election. There'll be a suite of issues. Economic management, I think, will be at the forefront, and a plan for lower taxes, whether that's lower personal taxes, lower business taxes, or lower taxes on retirees, versus higher taxes. But there'll be a suite of other issues, including local factors too.
I've got no doubt a huge part will be the comparative tax plans. I wouldn't debate that. You know, Labor will put forward that it's going to spend more on health and education, for example. You'll say they're going to have, I don't know what we're up to, 200 and something billion over 10 years extra taxes. Accepting that premise and accepting Matthias Cormann saying the by-elections will be a referendum on who's the better plan for a stronger economy and more jobs, where's the pass or fail on that? So what marker will you say
we don't set arbitrary markers. The reality, the starting point here has to be these are the two that we're contesting against the Labor Party, essentially, in Braddon and Longman, are two Labor-held seats, and the government hasn't won a seat off an opposition for 100 years. So the starting point is, of course, that it's, you know, the government's up against it, but you know, we fight to win every election we're in, and we're fighting to win in those two seats. And it will be, at the forefront of people's minds will be those issues on the economy, who can manage the economy, who can protect their jobs, who can ensure that their family budgets are in the best shape possible, and of course, who's going to tax them less. And we're going to tax them less, and Labor's going to tax them more, including retirees who they want to deny the access to franking credits.
But does that mean, because you say the starting point is Labor hold these two seats, so does that mean if you can win either of them, guess what, everyone likes our plan, if you lose them, you don't lose anything? So there's no way.
I don't think it's as binary as that, Tom. I know there's always a temptation.
No, but I'm just trying to set a marker.
There's always a temptation to say, here's the marker. I mean, the marker is we want to win both of them, but we're realistic. You know, you've got to be realistic. A government hasn't won a seat off an opposition for 100 years. Having said all that, if you look at what's happened in the Labor Party this week, it seems pretty clear to me that Bill Shorten's leadership's failing, that a lot of his backbench think he's failed as a leader too. You've got Anthony Albanese nipping at his heels pretty aggressively. I suspect that the people in Braddon and Longman will be looking at that as well. And I don't think, based on a lot of feedback I get, that many people are very enthusiastic about Bill Shorten's leadership.
Look, there are some murmurings, but on the voters and just trying to get any sort of marker for this, what if there's a strong swing towards Labor? Do you concede that that would be voters having their say?
It's not for me to set markers. It's my job to keep explaining to all Australians, and I understand why we're talking about Braddon and Longman, but to talk to all Australians about our plan for a stronger economy, which is delivering real dividends. You don't have to trust us. You can actually see it in the state of the economy, the state of the job market, the state of the budget, versus the Labor Party, who want ever more taxes. And now Bill Shorten says, if you're an Australian business competing against maybe foreign multinationals or businesses overseas, that if you've got turnover of $10 million, so a car dealer, a small independent supermarket, you are the top end of town.
Right.
And Daniel Plibersek today said, no one should be surprised that we want to put taxes on the top end of town. OK, so to all those car dealers, all those independent grocers, all those small manufacturers, the Labor Party believe you are the top end of town. And that's why the Labor Party backbench has revolted over this, because they know you can't call those people the top end of town.
I want to ask you about a couple of other topics. There's a Nats push for a $5 billion fund as an add-on to the National Energy Guarantee that would essentially go towards baseload power, subsidies or public-private partnerships. Is this an idea worth pursuing?
Well, I'm not aware of that. I mean, the policy we've discussed in the party room, the National Energy Guarantee, securing supply, putting really strong downward pressure on prices, that's what we
But just
support.
on that, so a $5 billion fund basically towards baseload separate from that. Isn't that an idea worth pursuing or discussing?
Well, Tom, I'm not privy to those discussions to the extent that they have happened, and I'm not sure, I can't confirm they have, because I haven't been a part of them. What I do know is what we've agreed for Josh Frydenberg to do, and Josh has done a phenomenal job in this space. I mean, you know, he's been given a very tough job, and he's done an extraordinary job. Now we've got to get real dividends for people, and that's a secure energy system, lower prices, and I'm very confident that if we continue in this vein, with the strong support of our party room, that's what we'll deliver.
They're not all there yet, but we'll see if they do get there. I want to ask you finally about the GST. The Prime Minister has said previously Tasmania won't lose a cent in whatever happens after the Productivity Commission. What does that mean for the other states and territories?
Well, Tom, look, we're obviously considering the PC report. I'm not going to add anything to that. There's always competing issues, very parochial views in each single state.
And a zero-sum game at the heart of it. But that's interesting, isn't it? The PM has this statement.
It's not a zero-sum game in one respect, Tom.
With the transition package.
No, it's not a zero-sum game in that what we have done as a government, we've actually increased the pie for the states, but including the tax on digital purchases, which...
But that doesn't change the cents in the dollar equation I'm talking about.
In some respects is controversial, but when you grow the pie of the GST through integrity measures, as we have, many hundreds of millions of dollars.
But the cents in the dollar is what I'm talking about. As I said, the PM has said Tasmania won't lose a cent.
I'm not going to get into it. Obviously, we're considering it. The Treasurer and the Prime Minister will have more to say, and it's not going to be up to me to announce anything today.
All right, well, try again next time.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. See you.